Welcome to the YouTube channel of Anthropology for UPSC by Simplified IAS Academy. So, in this video series, we are analyzing UPSC Mains 2025 Paper 1. We have already done part 1, 2, and 3, and this is going to be the fourth part of the series. So, if you have not watched the previous parts, you can go and check out the playlist. So, in this video series, we are discussing the trend, themes, and strategies related to Anthropology Paper 1, so to help you in making your preparation strategies, because here we are not just analyzing the paper one and its difficulty level, rather we are trying to see how UPSC is changing itself and how you can make your preparation robust. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Today we will discuss question number 5 from your section B. So this question is asking you about the multi-species, multi-sited and critical ethnography. Since ethnography is there, you can clearly figure it out that this belongs to your unit 8. Now the question comes whether it is a direct or an extension one. Of course, this is an extension of your syllabus because the syllabus talks about ethnography, but not all of these ethnography, to be very precise. Of course, the level is tough because, as I said, there is no mention of these particular ethnography techniques. So you can categorize it as a tougher level. Also, there is a requirement for you to have a theoretical or a conceptual knowledge about these particular topics. Then only you will be able to write an answer to this. So you can say that this is more of a conceptual and analytical question, but more on the conceptual side. But there were few PYQs, although that could be a little help over here because those were not directly related to it. But you can actually figure it out that those were asking you about the new ethnography and experimental ethnography. So somebody who have gone through the PYQs and would have tried to do a little bit of more research about all the kinds of different ethnography techniques that is evolving, then you might have came across these things. But I'm not saying that this is something all of you would have done, but even if you are not doing and have not done earlier, this is a cue for you to start doing such a things at your own end. Don't wait for others to tell you कि ये पढ़ना है ऐसे करना है. Sometimes something you also need to figure it out after looking at the PYQs, right? Now, what exactly one should answer in this particular question? Suppose like you are someone who have a bit of idea about all of these things, then definitely you can start with the definition of ethnography, which is like what it is all about and what it does. You could actually use some definitions by the scholar and something like this, right? Because this question is asking you like whether you can connect the earlier methods or the earlier ethnographic techniques to the 21st century techniques or not. So someone who has seen the evolution of, say for an example, Malinowski's participant observation to all of these methods, because when you look closely these methods are somewhere or the other way is capturing the essence of your globalization, environment, and power. So, in such a way, if you have read it very well, if you have not read it, as I said, start doing that. Now, coming back to the body part of it, as I said, introduction, you can very well define it. Then, in the body part, you could actually briefly mention about all of these techniques one by one. For example, like when you're talking about the multi-species ethnography. So multi-species ethnography is particularly when you study the human along with the animal, plants, and the other things, right? So when you take all of these together and do the ethnography, so that is called multi-species ethnography. So here the focus is not just upon the human but also on the non-human factors as well, right? Then you have this multi-sited ethnography. So multi-sited ethnography is something that was proposed by George Marcus. I think I have discussed about all of these things in some or the other way in my test series also. So multi-sited ethnographies, as I said, was given by George Marcus, And the essence over here is to you know, how people uh, follow like ideas, and how the globalization, you know, and the mobility is changing the world. So by all of these things, you can particularly figure it out that this has something to do with the 21st century itself, like how this is impacting and all. Then your critical ethnography. So critical ethnography, one of the very famous example is, of course, from the Paul Farmer. Okay, so when you are saying critical ethnography, so in this they takes care of all the activities like more on the political and the power angle. So here you're talking about inequality, here you're talking about power, social justice, decolonization, all of these things are there. So you could actually use the examples of Paul Farmer studies when he studied about the inequality prevailing and how that is leading to the poverty and all of sort thing. So those could be very well treated over here. Then, as you might see, like all of these things, this multi-species cited and the critical ethnography, all of these things are capturing the essence of 21st century. So that could be your common dimension. Because as I always tell you that for these 10 marker question, when they are asking about multiple concept, the need here is that you also capture some common dimension for all the concepts. So that's what you can do, capturing the essence of the 21st century as a common dimension. And then you can definitely conclude. The question is about the evolutionary significance of menopause. And this could be attributed directly to your unit 11.1, because this section or this topic is talking about menopause and its relevance. And this could be attributed a direct question, of course. And to my understanding, this should be an easy to moderate level of question, because in our note also we have covered this particular point as a part of an extension or as a part of an a value addition to this particular topic. So if you have studied these topic like this way, you can actually answer this particular question very well. So what exactly you are supposed to attempt or try to show in this particular question is that how this menopause is acting as an evolutionary adaptation. And what do you mean by evolutionary adaptation? So, this is something where this particular menopause is enhancing the longevity or is helping in the cultural continuity. That is what you have to show in this particular question as a demand. And how you can do that? Using all these adaptive theories. So these are like few adaptive theories. For example, when you talk about the grandmother hypothesis. So grandmother hypothesis is telling that once the women reach the menopause, then she become the caregiver for the grandchildren. And once she become the caregiver for the grandchildren, that helps in the survival of the grandchildren, because she's taking a good care of them, right? So that's what you need to show in the grandmother hypothesis. Similarly, for example, the mother hypothesis. So it is telling that after the menopause, the women are better able to take care of the children that she already have. And similarly, this conflict hypothesis or the reproductive conflict hypothesis is telling that in like a generation, suppose there is mother and daughter-in-law, so if both will have children at the same point of time, then there will be conflict of resource, there will be conflict that who will take care of what and all sort of thing. But generally, like now also what we see, if the daughter-in-law is giving birth, the mother-in-law will be there to take care of them, right? So these will help in what your longevity of the child. It will help in the proper growth of the child. So these are the things that you need to particularly show as an evolutionary significances of the menopause. So I hope that is very very clear to you. Then the next question is asking you about the fission track dating method and its application. Again, this question attributes to your unit 1.8, where you have to study about the absolute and the relative dating methods. So you could say that this is a direct question and also an easy to moderate one, because if you are studying topic 1.8, you must have studied fission tracking methods and its application, right? So here UPSC is definitely checking you upon like various dating techniques. Earlier, they have asked you about all of these dating techniques, and this year they have asked you about this one. So here you basically need to explain the principle of uranium 238 and how this fission leaves tracks in crystals, and how that helps in the chronological orders, right? And you could actually show the applications, and if you are able to figure out like some of the examples as well, that would be very good. Also, you should try and add limitations to these methods also, okay? So that is something could give you some little more extra point, because these questions are kind of very well known to everyone. So what makes difference in your answer is adding few more additional dimensions. Now with this, let's move on to the next question, which is asking you about the mitochondrial DNA and human evolution, right? So this mitochondrial DNA, of course, not mentioned directly in your syllabus, but whenever you are studying about the genetics, the genes, you must have studied about these mitochondrial DNA. And I'm sure people having biology background shouldn't be facing any issue in this problem. But for those of you who have not studied biology, this question could be a little trickier for you. But having said that, again, this was covered in our notes. So if you have studied it from there, you could have actually answered this. Now, there were various studies in the like few past few years, which is talking about these mitochondrial DNA, and supposedly that could be, one of the issue, one of the reasons that this question is there in your examination paper. But having said that, you cannot predict each and every question, and you just cannot go through each and every current affair that is there. But if you are studying any particular topic, and if you are studying with like little more curiosity, then definitely this could be something you could be able to answer. Because there was this out of Africa model, and there was a question also related to this when in 2019, of course. So this question was also showing, out of this out of Africa model was also having some context of that maternal ancestors, right? That was supporting this particular theory. And there was also some studies done by various scholars which was supporting this idea. So basically you need to, because since it is also talking about human evolution, not just the mitochondrial DNA, so you have to basically relate both of this, right? And you need to explain the role of this mitochondrial DNA in tracing the human origins and the migration, where you could actually use this out of Africa model out there. And out of Africa, as I said, was asked in 2019, so I'm sure you could figure it out very well and mention some of the points from here to this particular point. So that is about this particular question. Now moving on to the next question, which is asking you about the fetal origin of adult diseases and contribution of David Barker. This is a very interesting question. Of course, this is not directly a part of your syllabus, because nowhere we are studying about the David Barker hypothesis, but definitely you are going to interlink with the topics of your 9.8 and call it as an extension, of course. And here you are not just talking about the anthropology perspective, you are taking it a step further, showing the applications of it also. Because this particular hypothesis of David Barker is talking about how the culture, environment, and the biology interact with each other. So that is what we call as the biocultural adaptation, right? And you need to show in the light of public health as well. That could be the application part of this particular question. And there was a question, I'm not able to recall the exact year, but there were a question related to the type 2 diabetes. Thrifty phenotype was there, which was asked somewhere uh, back in 1980s question paper. If I'll get it, I'll let you know which year it was. So that question was asked over there. And if you have gone through the PYQs, and if you have ever read about that, if not about David Barker, you can at least know about the thrifty phenotype. So here it is basically asking you that how the low birth weight or the undernourished child can lead to the adult diabetes, hypertension, such a kind of diseases. Okay, and here if you also see in general also, you will observe that a woman, when she is not nourished well, when she is pregnant, could lead to difficulties in the child's life ahead, right? The child could be undernourished and could lead to various other factors or diseases. And there were studies done upon this particular thing, and it was found there was a correlation that children who was not nourished well during the 9 months of the pregnancy has higher attributes of getting type 2 diabetes. Of course, these are all related to your lifestyle as well, but this also plays a very important role. And the mechanism says like when the fetus is there in the womb, and if the fetus is sensing that the food is not sufficient enough for them to survive, they start conserving the energy and direct it to the vital organs, like for the development of brain and the other thing. And the other body parts which would require, like the which could like settle down with some lesser nutrients, are managed accordingly. And this becomes like one of the phenomena which they call it as thrifty phenotype again. And this thrifty phenotype, when they actually come in the real world, and when they start getting the nutrient rich environment, at that point of time, this high calorific diets and this low physical activity, this all led to diabetes or hypertension, because the body, the child's body, when the child was the fetus, it was programmed in that way that they have to live in this scarcity and store the extra energy. So now also when they come in the nutrient rich environment, they are still conserving the energy and storing it as a fat. And that storing of energy, conserving of energy, would eventually lead to fat, cholesterol, and all sort of problem leading to type 2 diabetes, hypertension, such a kind of a thing. And even now, there was a very interesting thing also which I was going through a few days ago, where it was shown, there was a study that shows that nowadays children are mostly having flat feet, but the feet should be little curved. There should be a little curvature forming over there. It shouldn't be flat like this. And the reason for this flat feet was that nowadays parents are very much concerned about their children, and they don't let them go barefoot. Okay, and they are making them wear some very sophisticated shoes, and keeping them like tightly like in a tight fitted shoes basically. So that is not actually helping them, it is somewhat harming them, because when the child with a flat foot will grow up, could have a higher chances of developing arthritis or any such kind of joint related diseases, compared to a child who is having a little curvature. So it was advised that children should be not always like asked to wear the shoes. They should wear the shoes only as and when it is very much needed. Otherwise, they should be kept in socks or something like that. So this study also has some kind of a correlation with this biocultural adaptation, right? How this culture, environment, and biology all are playing a role in each other, and how they're all coming together to give us all these kinds of things. So that was it for this particular video. And if I see this overall question that was there in this particular section, which is your question number 5, so question number A, B, C, D, E, there were few questions you could definitely answer directly from your syllabus itself. But of course, there were questions, especially like these question, David Barker question, was something that is more on a trickier side and may not be like known to all of you. And some of you who might have been like very much into the PYQs, they might have like studied about it. But I'm pretty sure Specifically, David Barker and his study or his hypothesis could be a little difficult for everyone. So in that case, even if you have missed such question and have not written much about it, not to worry, because majority of the people would be on the same boat itself. And rather than focusing upon just like one question like this, you should try and giving your maximum potential in the other question which you are choosing, because this questions though is anyway is the amongst the mandatory, you cannot do much about it, right? So with this, thank you so much, and I will bring the next questions very soon, and that will be the last for this paper one, and we will finish all the remaining questions in that particular video itself. Thank you so much.